We love creating camps of women. That is what media loves to do. How sad that we have created a culture where women don't want to slow down, think about how they're spending their time. Yeah. The real train stop to surround myself with smart people and figure out what comes next came in motherhood. Then I had this kid and he was free of politics. He just wanted me to be me.
When was the moment that you checked your ego?
I remember the picture and I just looked so happy. You have value with or without other people's perceptions aligning with how you feel. There's not a lot of dialogue around the transition to having a tween because they do pull away. How can we grow up alongside each other? And how do I make room for the next version of me? When you're shifting your energy away from one thing to make room for something else, you do reserve some room for yourself to get to grow to. Letting myself make decisions that no one else had to understand. That is a muscle that you are building for the rest of your life.
That is an incredible superpower.
The best payback is loving your life.
Yes. When no one else is watching.
When we deem something a luxury, we deem it less value. We punish people for it, and we punish people for privilege. I wonder how much healthier women would be if we stopped punishing them for luxury.
Before we get into today's conversation, 2 quick things I want to mention. First, the Breadwinners newsletter is on Substack. It's where I put the stuff that doesn't fit in a podcast episode. Think of it as a group chat you didn't know you needed. Real talk about money, childcare, partnership dynamics, and the messy middle of building a life that actually works. No polished advice, just the honest, unfiltered conversation we'd be having over dinner. Feel free to subscribe at wearetheBreadwinners.substack.com. Link is also in the show notes below. And second, if you're getting value from these conversations, I need to ask you to do something that makes a real difference. Subscribe and rate the Breadwinners podcast wherever you're listening. And here's why it matters. Every subscription and rating tells the platforms that this content is resonating, which helps us reach more women who are redefining what it means to be a breadwinner and their families and communities. And honestly, it's what allows us to keep producing this show and growing this movement. So hit subscribe, leave a rating if you can, and help us reach the women who need to know they're not alone in this. I'm so excited for today's episode. Today's guest and I go back nearly 20 years, which is a strange thing to say out loud, because in my memory, we were both just young and running hard at an advertising agency in Boston at the very beginning of our careers. We were ambitious, hungry, running on caffeine and dreams. We lost touch the way most people do. And then about a year ago, I got back in touch with Neha Ruch. And within about 10 minutes of that conversation, I realized that she and I are working on the same exact problem, but coming at it from completely different angles. I built the Breadwinners for highly ambitious, high-achieving women who need a mirror that showed them that more than their income is how they provide to their family. Neha built the Power Pause for women who stepped away from traditional careers to lean into family life, and who needed permission to call themselves ambitious anyways. On paper, we built the opposite ends of the spectrum. In practice, we built for the same women in different seasons. Neha is the founder of the Power Pause, formerly known as Mother Untitled, and the author of the book, The Power Pause, How to Plan a Career Break After Kids and Come Back Stronger Than Ever. It was a USA Today bestseller and an Oprah Daily top self-help pick. Today, we're going deeper into why the definition of ambition most of us inherited was never built for the lives that we're actually living. I feel so fortunate to reconnect with an old friend. Please welcome Neha Ruch. Neha, this is such a treat because typically I have my guests here and we start the conversation and I say, take me back to whatever. And today we get to go back together.
Yeah, so fun.
Take me back to 2008, almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You and I worked together at an ad agency in Boston, our first jobs. And we were like these young, hungry, single, no kids in the world of advertising. A year ago or so, you and I reconnected, and it was like no time had passed. Just tell the story of where we were and where we are now. So let's go back to Neha in 2008.
2008. So it was my second job.
Okay.
I had graduated college, and my dad had given me this great advice as to like start at a small place where you'll get to learn really fast.
Yeah.
And so I went to a small social media boutique when Twitter was nascent.
Oh my gosh.
And I was assigned the beat of mom blogs and doing social media relations to cultivate relationships with mom bloggers, which is so wild now in retrospect, right? Talk about full circle.
Yeah.
And it was also new, and I loved reading those blogs. It was like the heyday. There was a woman named Heather Armstrong. Do you remember her?
No.
She ran this blog called Deuce, and it was the first moment where women were giving voice to the like messier parts of motherhood and using the blogosphere to do it. So I started doing this thing called social media listening, which was, now we all talk about it so much, which is like pulling insights.
Yeah.
And my boss, Mike Prue.
Oh my God, Mike Prue.
So Mike was at that startup with me. He ran.
Oh my gosh.
And he ended up getting a bigger job at a bigger agency, the one we would meet at, to build their digital strategy wing. And he brought me over as his like second person.
I didn't know that.
And so I say that because I think I got very lucky in part, right? Like I made a couple right decisions of, you know, just starting in something new and getting to build something. Yeah. And then I was probably too young for my pay grade, you know, and I think I took that fed my ego. Yeah. So I got a lot of ego from what I did for work. And for being at sort of the frontier of something new in a larger agency and being in rooms where everyone was older. Yeah. And I loved it. I really did.
It's funny because you and I were sitting here before the camera started rolling, and we were reminiscing of like the advertising days, staying at work until like midnight, working on these presentations. What were we doing? Like, what were we working on? Why did it matter so much?
So many PowerPoint
presentations. And it was our everything. It's all we knew. It was the boot camp. And I talk about this often. It was the boot camp for how to think about, and from my perspective, how to bridge creative solutions with business problems. That when I realized 15, 20 years into my career, how many people don't have that foundation of like actually looking at creative solutions to figure out how to solve a business. Is like we live in this world of data, and I feel like that's my secret sauce, and your secret sauce is like you can actually take the right consumer insights and weave it into a creative solution that actually matters.
And I would add, it was the boot camp in storytelling. Yeah. You know, because even if you weren't on the creative side or the strategy side, you were still having to sell this idea to someone. And I think you and I were lucky enough to be on the client service side and being, you know, especially like as I progressed, I was part of the dog and pony pitch team, you know, that you would go around figuring out how to sell a big idea. And I think that that's a really interesting thing, to come up with an idea that you really care about and you can get behind and then figure out how to present it. But I do think we took it, you know, now in retrospect, I think I could have done that in a couple hours a day. And I don't quite know why I was there till 9, 10 p.m. most nights. And I do think, you know, I don't know if you remember this, but they used to let you expense your taxi rides home.
Yes, after a certain time.
Which I've only come to realize now was brilliant, because it incentivized you to stay. Yeah. And it was this sort of like signal, an outward signal of how hard you were working.
Yeah. Okay, so that's actually a great segue into what I want to talk about today. It was the true definition of hustle culture. We lived in hustle culture. Is like, the harder you work, the later you stay, the more PowerPoint presentations you can crank out is the definition of success. What would you go back and change today, knowing all you know now, if you could change something about how you did that, how you operated, the way you looked at what was important? Is there anything you would change?
It's both and, right? Because a part of me loves that I gave my work my everything when I could. I had in every room on the book tour, there would always be one person who didn't yet have a child in their 20s who would say to me, is there anything you would do differently in your career? And I would say, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I was so glad I had those years. And I'm so glad that it got to be my number one or a big priority.
Yeah.
Because of that, it was a boot camp. And because of that, I built a foundation of skills and a point of view and a sense of confidence that I could then draw upon later in my mid-30s or, at whatever stage. I built that foundational network so that I could draw upon it when I needed more options.
Yeah. I also strongly believe that it's almost redefining the term network is like the relationships you build, the two of us sitting across from each other. It's like I could be some random person who reached out to you to be like, I would like to interview you on my podcast. We have a deep story of our history. And like that comes from building relationships with people. That 20 years later, you can sit down with that same person and be like, remember when we did those crazy things? That to me sets you up for life, no matter what you're doing. But I have a 19-year-old stepson, and I try to remind him that the relationships he's building now will carry with him for the rest of his life. If he builds those relationships with trust and respect and like really nurtures those relationships. You and I went from Boston.
Yeah.
We then moved all over the country. Both of us were in California at one point. And you ended up at business school. What did business school teach you? What was that like chapter of your life about?
I'm sure you remember ad agency people were not primed to go to business school.
No.
I wanted an exit route. I wanted a way that I could exit stage left and preserve my confidence. And someone said to me, business school is a train stop to surround yourself with smart people and figure out what comes next.
Interesting.
And I only applied to 2 schools. I applied to Stanford and then I applied to NYU. And I ended up choosing Stanford because I felt like it was a pretty train stop. It was like really a more diverse set of thinkers and it really could be a scratch pad. I think I went there and I think I just grew up a little bit in terms of realizing that there was a world outside of work and I had a point of view and there were other interesting things. But it's ironic because I always say the real train stop to surround myself with smart people and figure out what comes next came in motherhood.
Truly. I have been building Breadwinners for the past year, and this year has been the year. This has been my train stop.
Yeah.
Like the people that have come out of the woodwork, the introductions I've been getting, the people who just want to be a part of what I'm building, never would have imagined it in a million years. And I'm sure you feel the same with the Power Pods. Is like there is a deep emotional connection to the platforms that we're trying to build, that people, this isn't just about being a part of a community. It's a deep emotional connection about how people define themselves.
And I would say even before the platform, and this starts to get into the beginnings of the Power Pods, but I found that train stop truly when I had my son. And, I think I had for so long, even at business school, and then even when I left business school and landed what on paper was my dream job, running brand at a tech company, right? I was like, okay, well, maybe if I go in-house, now I'll be in a position of a different amount of power without the politics, but politics follow you everywhere. And then I had this kid, and he was free of politics. He just wanted me to be me. And that, I think there was something I wanted to rest into in that. And when I sort of took off the armor and stopped trying so hard, then I could walk around playgrounds and play spaces and be genuinely curious.
Yeah.
And be genuinely introspective. And that was an opening up and a letting in of new ideas and new perspectives that I'd always been looking for and probably had been looking for when I went to business school. But ego is a big, big thing.
When was the moment that you checked your ego? Do you remember when it was?
I remember the picture where I realized that I didn't have the same ego. I was wearing this like gray V-neck, and I just looked so happy. I was like in Madison Square Park, and I was on it was like a red and blue, one of those plastic mats, and it wasn't curated, and it was just happy. And I looked at the picture, and I thought like, oh wow, I look free, and I wanted more of that. And that's why I always say, like, I did not choose to downshift my career and eventually pause because I thought it was better for my kid. Like,
Yeah.
truly, I mean, the research will show, like, there are happy and healthy outcomes for all children as long as you are, like, a present parent, and that presence isn't
That's right.
defined by hours, is defined by
Quality. Yeah.
But I felt fairly certain the quality of who I was going to grow and deepen if I let myself just like sit in this moment and like be free and be on, be a little messy again and not have the same sort of eyes and expectations. But I think the ego I had to check when I started circulating that news,
Yeah.
because, as we know, and obviously the catalyst for my work, telling people that you want to be at home with your kid 10 years ago was not met with like fanfare.
No.
It was met with a lot of like, really? That's what you're going to do? Are you going to give up? Like, are you going to be bored all day? Like sitting in the cocktail parties and the dinners did not, you suddenly become invisible.
Yeah.
And you have to, I think a lot of ego is realizing like you have value with or without other people's perceptions aligning with how you feel.
How did you find that value? What did that value look like?
I mean, it took a beat. I'm like fast forwarding, right? So if I had
Right.
Bodhi in 2016,
Yeah.
right? And I what were you doing in 2016? Do you remember?
I had just left my corporate job. We had gone through an acquisition, and I left to consult because I was like, I don't want to be in corporate world.
Right.
And I took a break for a year and consulted.
So you remember the backdrop of that year. It was still like very much
Yeah.
the lean in era.
Yeah.
And
Oh, for sure. Everyone was leaning in so hard.
leaning in so hard. I remember sitting, at breakfast with my in-laws and all debating the lean in sort of rallying cry. And I said then, like, it's just missing a big chunk, which is like, what about the people who can't set up a childcare facility in the office next door to them, or don't have childcare who can travel with them,
Right.
or don't want to,
Yeah. Or
Right.
don't want to.
because that's a big piece of it. It's not just about like the privilege of being able to work at that capacity. It's also about like the desire
Yeah.
to work at that capacity.
Yes.
And so I think there was just like a mess. I would say there was like a messy middle of like a year or two, where I had to like word vomit my way through. Oh, I'm, right now I'm with my kids
Yeah.
or with my child. And I'm kind of consulting and I'm kind of, figuring out, but it wasn't clean.
Yeah.
And I had to get used to, I remember reading one book that changed everything. I read The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I don't know if you've read it.
I haven't.
Oh,
but
everyone
we
who
put
listens
all
to
books
this
in show notes.
should.
So.
And there's one piece which is about the agreement you make with yourself, knowing that other people's perceptions and criticisms have very little to do with you.
Oh my gosh.
And very much to do with how they're experiencing that choice.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about it in the context of work and motherhood and realizing that, of course, people are going to feel incredibly defensive of their experiences with work and motherhood,
Yeah.
right? And so if, for example, my mother-in-law would make a comment, that didn't come from a place of like disdain for me. It came from a place of reconciling her own sets of choices and the choices she may or may not have had. And I think separating myself from the criticism was a practice that I had to do over those sort of first 1 or 2 years.
It's coming to light again because a couple weeks ago, Emma Grede launched her book, and it took over the internet. I mean, so many hot takes on what people's POV was on her 3-hour momming. And it's exactly that. It goes back to that book. It was personal.
Yeah.
everyone just had this like personal, I wouldn't say attack, but like people felt it of whether they agreed with her or didn't agree with her. There was a big separation on people's points of view. And it really, I mean, I read so many posts where people just felt, you could tell they felt personally attacked. She just gave her point of view.
Right. I would add, so first of all, Emma Grade is an incredible marketer. Let's call it
Truly.
Like, she knew
Yes.
what sound bites were going to hit. And you cannot sell without a lot of enthusiasm. And enthusiasm can be gleaned a couple ways, but a really easy way is through controversy.
Yes.
So she is brilliant.
Yep.
The second part, I think, is the context we're operating in. Because the moment of time we're in right now is a far cry from where I was in 2016 or 2017, right?
How is it different?
And we're fast forwarding a lot, but I would say post-pandemic, there was a real reckoning around, wait a second, maybe now we know what a stay-at-home mom does all day. And by the way, being at home with our kids is kind of nice. And by the way, our kids like actually need a lot in their mental health, and the education system needs us. And by the way, flexible work does work. So why have we been not leaning on this? And suddenly there was this like massive recalibration and reevaluation on a personal front, on a corporate front. And we saw real softening of the dialogue, or softening of the sort of black and white edges of the dialogue of stay at home and working. We saw sort of this discussion about how do we make work better for families, and it suddenly took a stage that it had never been on. And I would say very specifically, remote work became mainstream. And when remote work became mainstream, it did two things. It allowed dads to be at pickup too, or drop off. It allowed women to suddenly be at pickup and then maybe sign back on later. And what Emma Grede said before the 3-hour momming was remote work is a setback for women. And what I will say about that is she was honest. Like, what she was saying is, if you, listener or reader, want to get to my level and run 3 massive corporations, you are missing a lot of opportunities to progress in your career by not showing face and building those relationships.
Right.
And I would agree with her. And I would say not everyone wants to be running 3 massive corporations.
Exactly.
And I think what we lost in the conversation on all sides was she was saying that was the path that she took to succeed at her level.
That's right.
And that there are trade-offs you make when you choose flexibility. I also would say there are trade-offs you make at any given juncture.
Anything.
And you have to decide what you're operating towards. And by the way, that may change. It's certainly like what you and I were operating towards when we were 28 is different than at 38 or 48. And so we may make a different set of trade-offs, right? And I think the sad part of the internet, and I love the internet.
I know.
I really do.
For most of it.
And we tend to like dumb things down to like one quick line, and no one reads the subtext.
That's right.
And so we lose a lot. And my hope and my wish through my work has always been to show there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of in between. It's always evolving. It's very fluid. And a lot of this comes down to just like owning what's right for you and your family, and then coming back and checking in.
So I want to spend some time digging into the discovery of what's right for you. Because I think you talk about this a lot in your book. I talk about it in the community of Breadwinners, is like going through that discovery will help you figure out what your next chapter is. Because going back to our 28-year-old selves, you have to accept the seasons as becoming, it's like peeling back the onion. It's like you become a new version of yourself. So for women in the Power Pause community, and it's not a one-size-fits-all, but like, how do you encourage that discovery process? And then maybe what does it look like for someone who might be a breadwinner who wants to go take a power pause? Like, what is that? It's almost like sliding doors. It's like, where do those intersections meet?
Yeah.
And like, how do you help someone think through that?
So you're talking about that preparing moment, whether they're in a pause, whether they're in a downshift, whether they're in a moment of pivoting.
Yeah.
So much of it comes to like sitting with yourself, right? And just giving yourself time.
Yeah.
I think that's the first piece. None of these decisions happen overnight.
Right.
Right. And one of the women I interviewed for the book once said she took herself on a walk by herself for 20 minutes, no podcast, no nothing, 20 minutes a day for 4 weeks. And it was just the time to get quiet with herself and wasn't even like doing deep thinking.
Yeah.
It was just like opening up a little bit of space of like, hey, where am I? Like, how am I feeling? Like, what am I actually wanting? Because first you need time. And then the second part is you need real honesty with yourself.
What does that look like?
So honesty with yourself means, and I tell everyone at various stages of the Power Pause, by the way, whether you're preparing or you're suddenly trying to figure out what do I do next, is write in great detail what your ideal day looks like. In maybe, I used to say 3 to 5 years. Now I would give you a year if that feels too far out. Write your ideal day in great detail, like what you're wearing, how you feel in your body, how you feel in your relationships, what your home feels like, what you're spending your time on, paid or unpaid. Spend as long as you want on it. I spent, the first time I did it, I think it was like an iterative process for like 2 weeks of brain dumping. And I still have it. And what it does is, it doesn't mean like you're going to teleport to that version.
Yeah.
But when you read it, you start realizing like, when no one else is looking, what would you say your ideal goals are in life? Like, what is, is it, maybe it's that you actually really love the stability of your job, but you just want, like, you don't really like want that promotion right now, or you don't want that management duty right now, right? Say you're the breadwinner, maybe it's not the time to like take on that high profile project, and you're okay taking a little, like, sacrificing some of the front row like exposure for a little bit more headspace, because what you want to do is put your phone away at 5 o'clock, and when you wrote your ideal day, that's what it said. Or maybe it looked like, you know what, I've like really always wanted to see what it feels like to consult and work on like female startups, and I like want to be working from 9 to 3, and that's what life looks like, and like these are the type of like ideal clients I'd be working with, and this is how I'd be, that would like free me up to be able to do drop off, and I want to be able to like have a coffee and build community in our local school, and like that's my goal. And what you're doing is you're giving yourself permission to like dream without people looking over your shoulder.
Okay, I want to keep coming back to that, because you said it and then you just said it again. The being able to figure out what you want when no one's watching. I would love that. Like, that sounds amazing. I think that requires putting social media away to some degree. That sounds very freeing. I'm not there. I don't know that most people know how to decouple those things.
Yeah.
And that introspection, I think, is really, really important. I mean, it's almost a form of therapy.
Well, it really depends also on your medium, right? Some people might say, like, that's not enough for me. Like, I need talk. I need to talk this through. And then I would say invest in if you have the privilege to invest in a sounding board, do that, right? And if you are someone who does better with putting the reason to put pen to paper is because for some reason we feel more accountable when we articulate our thoughts in words. It is some piece of our brain that still associates it with contracts.
That's right. And
so it's essentially you're making a contract with yourself. And it also allows you the permission to do it without people seeing.
There's also this, I'm going to tie this back to human development. Because there's research now, Jonathan Haidt talks about it a lot. There is research that kids on screens, the way that they're learning isn't translating, because the human brain learns and absorbs and retains through the act of writing.
Yeah. Yes.
So that act of writing is a contract, but it's also cementing it into your brain.
And it becomes your filter. I think about it in the context of goals, and I share this in the context of, women who may have paused or downshifted, because one of the many traps we fall into, and I certainly fell into it, is, okay, well, if I'm not working for pay, then what is success? And, by the way, this translates for many entrepreneurs too in those sort of early stages. So you have this immense pressure to figure out how you feel like you're moving yourself forward without a salary bump, right? And I think articulating your goals allows you to come up with, well, what are my personal, professional goals? Maybe even family goals, right? So like for me, for a period of time personally, I just wanted to feel less reactive. That's all I wanted. Is like, I knew I was stepping into parenthood with 2 kids, and that was not, like, I knew it was going to test me. And I didn't want reactivity to be a part of what they remember and when they think back, right? And so,
how did you find the reactive triggers? What did you remove?
I think it was less about removing, and it was a lot about adding practices. So like for me, it was, during that period, I developed a 5-minute meditation practice and a 5-minute intention setting practice, which I do still to this day. So I do under 5 minutes on Insight Timer. And then I pull out my iPhone, I can show it to you after, and I have a gratitude list for every single year. And I do like an emoji that for the 3 gratitudes and an emoji for my intentions. And the act of writing, you're making a contract with yourself. Your intention is, your commitment to yourself is, I will recognize that this stage for my children is passing. Right? Like, none of this is that. And by the way, like, how lucky are we to have security? We are not fighting for our lives here. Like,
so lucky.
And then I think the other practice was just like a muscle memory around noticing. So I think for moms especially, so much of like what they call mom rage or mom is all the little things that have built up. And so I try very hard to work on noticing, which is like, and I intend on that in the morning. Like, notice that little, like, when, like, oh, my, like, kid's, like, on me. That, like, feels like, get up and get water. Don't push through it.
Right.
Or, like, wow, it's really driving me crazy that I'm packing these backpacks. Like, what can we put in place so that, like, that is no longer, like, we are going to empower everyone to fill their own water. Like, I'm going to make a checklist. Everyone else is going to do that. My husband spoke to me in a way I didn't like that. I'm going to notice it, and I'm going to say, like, I really didn't like your tone. But instead of letting it all build, and that is a deviation from our conversation, but I think it's an important call out that I would not have been able to do that work had I not made room to make that a central goal in my life. That to me is success. Like, if my kids one day when they think back on their childhood, and I wrote this in my, like, I have a North Star, which is where I was getting to, is that a lot of that writing around, like, your ideal version also helps reveal, like, what are you really operating toward, right? Like, and if I want my kids to be able to look back one day, and myself to be able to look back one day and be like, we had a really calm, silly life, like, that's all. Then suddenly that, like, frees you up a bit. And it, like, also becomes the filter with which I make decisions. Meaning, like, I do not scale this company up. Because I know it will take away from my headspace and my capacity to regulate, which is, like, a key part of my values.
Okay, there's 2 things I want to hit on. We talk a lot in this community about the hero mentality over the victim mentality. And I think there's a very small nuance in what you just said of being aware of the intentions and noticing. And I think some people can slip into harping on something versus noticing something and basically acting on change. Let's spend some time in that nuance, because I think when you have so many pressures of children, marriage, kids, like work, all the things, it is easy to fall into a bit of the victim mentality of like, my husband talks to me that way every day. I'm so sick of it. Versus, interesting, I don't love that happened, but let's try and find solutions.
Right.
What did you go through in those early years of acknowledging this new season of your life, acknowledging this new version of Neha, but not fall into the victim trap?
I do think there is a real mindset around this time is yours.
Mm-hmm.
It's not happening to you. It is yours.
Yeah.
Right. And I do think I felt really clear on that. And I think as soon as you decide this time is yours, then you get to decide what makes it feel good and makes it feel successful.
Yeah.
I do think I'm undervaluing and underplaying the very real messiness that you have to work through to get to, like, that's something I want to change.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it took yelling at my 3-year-old, right, after I was at capacity with a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old. And, like, he was, poor thing, was like, I was trying to put one to sleep, and then the other was outside, and he was barging in. And
oh, I've been there.
And it
oh
was that moment of, I am at I'm overwhelmed, right? I'm at capacity. And, like, I have a choice. Do I want to go through every single day at capacity, ending my day regretting, like, spending this time in my life that I actively designed, that I actively set aside all those mean things people said about, my choice, to then spend my night regretting it? That, like, feels bad. And so what do I have to do to change that? And the what do I have to do in that case was, okay, I need to, like, increase my capacity. And that was the moment I decided to get help. I did not have childcare for a period of this motherhood experience. Because I, like many women who step into a career pause, think, well, I'm doing this. And I chose to do this, and I'm doing this out of love. And by the way, I'm not doing paid work, and you don't deserve paid help if you don't do paid work, which like, I spent an entire chapter in that book and a lot of my work reminding women that this work is 24/7. And by the way, I will tell you now, having done it, it is intellectually, emotionally, exhaustingly demanding.
Yeah.
And you need support, and that support helps everyone in the home.
Yeah.
But I had to work through the moment of overwhelm and then work through the dialogue with my husband as we budgeted for help to come to the language of, wait, help helps us all work better. And we are an interdependent household, right? And I think, like, so much of the book and sort of the work has been about dismantling these tropes. But the reason that I had to rewrite them was because I first had to rewrite them for myself.
So what was the conversation like with your husband? Like, this is a new chapter, right?
Yeah.
This is you and your husband sitting down and being like, well, our lives have completely evolved. I am now a new person. Did he feel like he was a new person? Because, like, the important thing to acknowledge is, for most families, not all, there's some incredible single parents, but it takes a unit. Whatever that unit looks like. Like, you're not going it alone, even though sometimes it might feel like you're going it alone. But what were those conversations like?
They were heavy. They were complicated. And not in the way I would have expected. But my husband, who feels like he should get a byline on this book because he, like, poor thing, like, took a real front row seat to, like, the messiness, but also inspired a lot of the conflict. I think he had always known. I mean, when we started, what we talked about was work. It was a huge part, central part of my identity. He felt a pride when I'd gotten into business school, and he could tell people about his fiance getting into business school, right? There's that tangential pride and ego that you get from your partner. And whether or not he realized it, he was shocked when I was saying, I don't need work right now. Like, I don't want that anymore. And the way his articulation of it was like, I just worry you're not going to be fulfilled. And I think feeling like I had to convince a person I loved
Yeah.
that I was happy felt very weird.
Yeah.
And so that was happening at the same time as we were having the financial conversations, right? So let's start, the front end. So much of it was letting myself make decisions that no one else had to understand. Right. And that is a muscle that you are building for the rest of your life. But I will tell you, of all the superpowers I left that stage of my life with, that was it.
That is an incredible superpower.
It is a superpower that will show up. It shows up in my business all the time. Right. It is a self-trust to be able to make the best right decision without even your people not understanding it. And really believing in your own sense of ambition that, like, this choice does not take away from your determination to live a good life and design a good life. So that was happening in parallel to, okay, let's like lay this all out from a financial perspective. And to my husband's immense credit, he ran our home like a business. Yeah. So we have a P&L. And so we review it at the beginning of every year. Well, there was the income in, then there was all of our budget items, everything, like dining out, personal care, like, every single thing pieced out. And so the helpful part of that was that was math. That was math, because it was how much childcare, like, we could move pieces around and realize, like, all right, like, based on my income, which, by the way, I was at a tech startup with a lot of equity, but like, let's call a spade a spade. Like, it was six figures, but barely. Yeah. And it was easy to the math. And so that made that dialogue very clear. And I encourage everyone, whether or not it's a financial no-brainer, to sit down and have that conversation, because I will tell you the hardest conversation we had was during that piece. Maybe it was the second year when we were going through the budget. He said, well, it's a luxury that you get to be at home. And I said, and it was in that moment, and I said, like, that the word luxury just didn't feel good. Yeah. And I said, I actually really don't think so. Like, there's nothing about my day that's luxurious. No. I actually think it's a luxury for you to get on a plane and go to the Bay Area to fundraise without ever having to think about who's picking who up from school and who's taking who to the doctor.
Sleeping at a hotel and ordering room service.
Actually, let's take luxury off the table and just decide now that you working out of the home actually depend on me to, like, sit so that you can single task, not having to worry about it. And I think that's a lot of working through that, which, by the way, took time, took a lot of effort of sitting down and doing the math and and having to sit in the discomfort of my husband not fully always thinking that I was fulfilled. It took us being able to work through that for me to get to, wait a second, we're an interdependent household, and you depend on me. And that is the language I obviously am now able to present in the book, but it was having to live through it.
So I think the easiest thing, especially in financial conversations, is like you present things objectively, right? Yeah. 1 + 1 = 2. When you bring the emotion in, it becomes subjective. So being able to sit in that of, like, the maths, great. There's a line item that shows that the maths. But the subjective piece, which is the emotional connection that you feel to maybe whatever you're leaving behind or wherever you're going to be going next, is like this unknown of, like, well, how long am I going to be doing this? Or how do I find my happiness in this thing? I think that's the important uncomfort to sit with, is like, it would be really nice if you could just look at a spreadsheet and be like, well, this works for us. But acknowledging that the subjective emotional piece is equally as important, so you can have somewhat of an objective conversation about it. So you can say those things out loud. It's like, let's just table luxury. Because, like, your luxury, or how you think my day is luxurious and I think your day is luxurious, let's just not discuss that.
Yeah. Or let me give you, I think a lot of us want to shut down when things become uncomfortable,
Yeah.
as opposed to leaning into it and saying like, this is like how my days actually look and feel.
Yeah.
I actually think having our second child was sort of the moment of awakening for him, in realizing for a really long time things were pretty neatly compartmentalized.
It's always with the first child. It's
Everything
I've
felt
got
like
this.
orderly. And then the second one came and it was messy, right? It was really freaking messy. And I needed more. Like, I needed help. And I had to have the I am cracking. I'm emotionally cracking.
Yeah.
And this is a lot to figure out, how do I take this precious 3-year-old and make him less of a sociopath around his sister? What books do I read to do that?
Yeah.
And
where do I find the time to read a book?
And when am I doing? But I think time does, having a real dialogue about these are the things on my mind at the end of the day, and not shutting down.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the sort of emotional work of parenthood and the joy of parenthood does become invisible. I think when we talk about, noticing, if you notice that how you're spending your days doesn't feel invisible, talk about it.
Yeah.
Because no one's going to ask at the end of the day unless you talk about, I've been really trying to figure out, what is going on with the mood changes and how he's approaching food so differently, and what I want for this dynamic for these two kids, and what do I need to do or not care about right now. Invite that thought partnership, because parenthood is emotional labor and it is intellectual labor, and it does deserve a lot of room, right? Whether you flex your work or not flex your work, it takes up space.
Yeah.
And I think being able to talk about it gives it a level of gravitas that, to your question about did my husband have some massive identity shift the day he saw our child, did it look like it? Absolutely yes.
Yeah.
Did he go back to work 4 days later? Absolutely yes.
Yep.
And but now I see it as we've become real thought partners on raising these children. So I really encourage people to bring, if you are in a 2-parent household, that dialogue into the home.
This is a little bit of a sidebar, but I think this is an important conversation to have. I think we need to give men a little bit of grace when they become dads, for second time, third time, whatever it is. Because I distinctly remember my husband, I have a stepson, so he was already a dad. And when we had our first and our second, there were moments where we were in the hospital and he was on Zoom on a work call, because work continued for him. And I remember thinking, why is he on a work call right now?
Yeah.
But I actually look back on it and it's they're doing their best, and their minds transitioned to, psychologically, to what you were saying before, is their path to fatherhood just looks different than our path to motherhood. And I look back on those times and I'm it took him a different path to bond with our kids and to have those special moments. Even now, our kids are 5, 4, and 2, and I can see that there's these moments that he has that I maybe had years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm that's okay that you have a different path. It's kind of going back to the Emma Grede thing, is you take it so personally of why aren't you seeing what I see? And it's well, they just have a different path to get there. Yeah. And I think that's okay.
And different language.
Yeah.
And different expectations.
Yeah.
I mean, I think so much of our current version of feminism, right? What I want for feminism is that we finally own that we're different. Right? I think we tried so hard. And by the way, it did wonders for women in the workforce to prove our capacity like men.
Sure.
But we did it by pretending we were like men.
Yeah.
And because we did that, we couldn't talk openly about the fact that we were coming back to work bleeding or that we missed our children.
Yeah.
or that we were still nursing. And so we didn't have this, we weren't able to advocate for the supports that we're now saying, wait a second, we are different.
Yeah.
We actually do have unique needs and wants.
Yep.
And I think with that, men have unique needs and wants, right? And I will, I think when we realize that, we can start playing to each other's strengths in the home too. Like I feel like my husband is a great cook, like loves to cook. He's also a great taskmaster. Like he's just good at operations.
Yeah.
He runs the operations of our home, right? Like he is the reason we have toilet paper on any given day.
Same with my
husband. He is
husband.
The reason every form for our school is filled out.
Amazing.
Yeah, like that was what I said very early on when I was at home with the kids. I said, like, you are on airplanes and in hotels. Like, you know what's really available there? Your computer.
A PDF.
And so feels like you should do. And he has done forms and scheduling doctor's appointments. And that's his thing.
Yeah.
And he gets it done. And it isn't until like more recently, in recent years, I would say, when my son aged into his own social dynamics. That
How old is he now?
My son's 10 and a half.
Oh my gosh.
I know. I know.
Whoa.
It's wild. It's like that's a whole different podcast. I've been thinking a lot about how there's so much dialogue around postpartum, but there's not a lot of dialogue around the transition to having a tween because they do pull away.
Yeah.
It's a
big
difference,
moment.
especially with boys. It's different. It's
and
your
it
role
feels
changes.
like you wake up one morning and it's just the doors closed to their room, and you're like, I remember this with my stepson. Like I just remember the moment where it was like, wow, he's just emotionally removed, and that's just developmental. And so, what is that new version of you look like? You're now a new mom. Because
it's a new mom, and it's a new, what does it allow you, right? Like maybe it is letting go of, like, I don't need to be in his room when he's brushing his teeth talking to him about like how his day's going. He doesn't want that.
Right.
He just doesn't want that.
Right.
And so, but like what, maybe I can be sipping like coffee and reading my news.
Yeah.
Like how can we grow up alongside each other? And how do I make room for the next version of me, and like by nature of making room for him?
How can we grow up alongside each other? Like that just hits so hard.
Yeah, because that was when I think about the power pause, whether you pause or whether you shift or whether you pivot or whether you do exactly what you're doing but you're making room for family life, because there's a million ways you can make room for family life. I think it relies on the fact that when you're shifting your energy away from one thing to make room for something else, you do reserve some room for yourself to get to grow too.
Yeah.
And I think if you can see it that way, and if you can frame this chapter in your life as like one that you actually, just by nature of operating in new spaces, right? Like you are walking down the street now in a new direction because you're going to school drop off, or you're going to a baby group, or you're going to a playground where you would have never done that on a Saturday morning. Yeah. You're going to meet new people. You're going to have new conversations. You're going to suddenly come across new problems that you had never had before because you were single and going to brunch on a Sunday.
Yeah, totally.
And suddenly, just by nature of that, you're going to expand your network and your interests and your sense of self. And like, to your question about identity, bringing it back, nothing, like, yes, you are going to shed parts of yourself that like you just don't have time for anymore.
Right.
But if you're intentional about which parts you shed, you can hold on to like, oh, those parts get to go with me, right? Those other parts that I'm really proud of. And by the way, that's professional too. Like I say to everyone, if they do make a shift, like our time in our 20s, we just like, if you allow us hours, we can go back probably in great detail and mine for all of the things that lit us up. I guarantee we could thread it back to where we are now. Like the threads that we chose to bring with us, I think we elected to choose to bring with us.
I sent an email out because we have our dinner here in New York on Thursday. And I start every dinner with an intention setting. And the intention setting for Thursday is this idea of identity foreclosure, which a psychologist in the 1960s came up with that term, which is acknowledging that there is another version of yourself that maybe you didn't have the space or capacity to entertain or embrace because you were so good at being the present version of yourself. Like, it's remarkable where we've come in the last 20 years. But the reflection is, what is that other version of yourself that you would have been if you weren't so good at being the strategist and building the PowerPoints and acknowledging a new sense of motherhood? Like, who is that version of Neha?
I got the prompt and I thought, I had a chance to think about this. And so I'm exactly where I want to be.
Yeah.
Now I have to stay open, by the way, to another version. And I think a lot of it is going to be letting go of, wow, I'm so squarely in the gray area and I have to be picking up my daughter at gymnastics. I'm not always going to have to pick up my daughter at gymnastics.
Yeah.
And so I wonder what that lets in when I move past the new identity of building work that works alongside family life.
Yeah.
What happens when family life takes up less space and I can build work at whatever scale I want it to build at. And I think that's a really interesting one because I think that I have gotten I almost went in the direction of I'd attached so much to my work, and then a career shift allowed me to make room for, well, what could I be? And I'd always wanted to create content. Yeah. I was obsessed with Tumblr even though it was softcore porn, and I still loved it. And, I feel like I keep the magazine industry alive. Yeah. And so to be doing that, to give myself room to play with that, even when I went to business school, a 5-year, business school reunion, and I heard someone say like, "Oh, she's running a mom blog," and it felt so diminutive, and it diminished so much of the heart of what I did. And I still got to do it. I got to let myself do this thing that no one else like really understood or approved of, and it led me to what I'd always wanted to do.
Because you weren't looking for other people's approval. It's going back to accepting that. Like, what a gift that you were able to get to that headspace.
I was, and I think it was, and it, but when people say, like, wow, you did it. You got to, like, you always wanted to write a book, and you always wanted to do media, and I'm like, now it looks like that. I know. It's been 10 years. Yeah, the first 5 years, people thought I was running like a cute little mom blog that was like kind of anti-feminist, and so it's nice that everyone's being nice about it now, but like wasn't always that way.
I don't know if you feel this way, but like I've been building the Breadwinners for the past year, and like I have friends who are like, it's so cute what you're doing. Like people are literally use the word cute. Yeah. And it fuels me to be like, I can't wait to prove
it's the
you
best.
wrong.
Well, but let me be very clear. I think about it all the time. Like I really wanted to walk up, and it was a woman who said it. They're like, she's going to put my sunglasses on this little blog. And I remember being like, it's actually like a game-changing movement about women in work, but like, okay. Yeah, but I didn't say it, but it definitely was the thing on my back that I was not going to let this not work. Yeah. And I think that's amazing. Like, that's what's so fun.
It's amazing. It's so fun. It's so fun. It's just the fire just got ignited inside me. I'm like, you just watch.
And by the way, it doesn't, I say that, and then I think, well, like, we have a culture where we judge the way women spend time. Because if it wasn't a mom blog and I was like, it would be like, oh, well, she plays tennis or she plays mahjong or she plays and I'd be like, what's really fun? That I love my life.
I know.
And so it doesn't have to be like proving but like the best payback is loving your life.
Yes, truly.
When no one else is watching.
And the fact that when no one else is watching, and the fact that you get to say that out loud, you're in like the 1%.
I know. And I feel it. I really do. I really do. But what's interesting is I'm fully aware that I'm minutes away from some existential crisis.
Sure.
Like,
Aren't we all?
I feel as though there is going to be a moment that I'm going to look back and be like, did I do enough? Did I make this thing big enough? Could I have made it bigger?
Yeah.
And at that moment, I'll have to think, like, do I regret any of it? And I think the answer would be no. Like, I feel fairly confident I've lived my life so that I can look back and be like, I don't.
But the only person that
that.
can answer that and define it is you.
Me.
No one else can define whether or not you did enough.
Yeah. Well, I think the doing enough is an interesting one because there's an inherent, if you look hard enough, you can find competitors or competition anywhere.
Anywhere.
And I think one of the gifts of doing work in this space, and I'm not trying to put lipstick on a pig, but is that there are so many people
Yes.
doing work that they love and doing work that they care, that I'm sure if you look hard enough, you'll find it.
Yep.
So all you can do is decide, like, I'm going to do this because, like, to get my point of view out there, and I'm going to do it in a way that I feel really good about. And some of that is, like, how it looks and how it feels and, like, is it profitable?
Right.
Don't want it to be profitable.
Right.
And deciding at the beginning of every year. I do think so that this is the gift. You get to, like, no one really knows the numbers behind the scenes.
No.
So you might as well decide personally what's important in every given year and, like, iterate year over year.
And it is scary as hell to have that freedom to make those decisions, because there is a sense of inertia that comes with that, of like, well, what goals am I setting? What deadlines am I setting? Like, what does success look like? Like, I get to define that. And there is a massive transition in your brain coming from like, I left my 20-year corporate job and I was conditioned. I was conditioned to constantly meeting the next goal, defining success, scaling. And now I'm looking at this and I'm like, I actually don't give a shit what scaling looks like.
Yeah.
I don't. It doesn't matter. And that brings me so much joy to be able to say that out loud and have that conversation with people, and hopefully create a space where other people can embrace that too. But I'm hoping from these conversations, they take small nuances where they can write down the things that matter, or they can start noticing things at home, or they can figure out defining what success looks like for them. Because I think that's where the shifts happen. When you actually stop and think about what these things mean for you when no one's watching.
Well, and I also think if you need or want to be in a full-time role, and by the way, there's a lot of benefits to being in a full-time, besides the, like, obvious.
Sure.
There's also the compartmentalized, like, in theory, 9 to 5. There's a mindset around the good enough job that it just doesn't take at, like, 100% of you. Because I think that's what motherhood forces you to do, whatever your relationship is to work. Whatever choices you've made is this decision that it's not going to be, it can't be your everything.
Right.
And as soon as you realize something else needs you, it challenges you to make room for other things. Yeah. Right? And I think motherhood actually challenges you to also become a better version of yourself, because, like, at the end of the day, that's what your kids see.
Yeah.
Like, they don't really, like, I think it's less about, like, was my mother working out of the home all the time, or was she working in the home? It's like, was she happy and joyful to be around?
Yeah.
Or was she real and thoughtful, or whatever, however you want. And I think that's the part of, like, self-determination you can take back.
Yeah. It's really hard to sit in those moments, because motherhood, working motherhood, stay-at-home motherhood is really messy. So finding that happiness, or hopefully reflecting that happiness onto your kids, is something I think about all the time. But then you have those moments where you're just human, and, like, it's okay that you snap at your kids.
I think it's more than okay. They need to be able to understand what an apology looks like.
That's exactly right.
And explain what else. It's so interesting. I snapped at my daughter maybe a few weeks ago, and there was something on my mind work-wise. And it was someone had, naturally copied a piece of my work and was, as happens a lot these days. And I shared, when I was apologizing to her, said I'm always working on how I express my feelings, and, being firm but being kind. And sometimes when you're distracted and you're worried about something else, she was like, well, what are you worried about? And I got a chance to say, like, there was this icky thing that, like, made me feel like my work wasn't important, that anyone could say it, and my thoughts weren't mine, and she still brings it up.
Oh my gosh.
She's been like, how is that woman who, and she was like, have you talked to her? And it's so interesting that, like, of all the things I share with her, it's actually that part that feels icky, that she wants to know more about.
Yeah.
Because that she's realizing, like, oh, icky things happen in the world, and, like, I can do things, and, like, it's not going to be all roses.
Yeah.
But, like, she has a full life, and she's still here.
I think it is really important to show that you're human, to show that you have bad days, and that you apologize for snapping at her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or showing that when you're arguing with your husband, how you resolve that in front of them.
I think that one is huge. Like,
Huge.
I think otherwise these children grow up thinking that marriage is like hugs and kisses and, like, holding hands.
Yeah.
And not like banter and then someone apologizing for going too far, or like code words between two parents to, like, check their tone.
Yeah.
Totally.
Totally.
And so I do think that but as we're talking about this, I think about how much rewiring we've done as a generation. And, for better or for worse, I think parenting, I'm sure you saw the Wall Street Journal article about the shift from tiger mom to beta mom.
I saw that.
And
what is your take on that?
I just feel like at some point, like, stop with the labels. We're all just trying our best. Like,
my
let's
husband said
And
it
by
to
the way,
me, and I
hasn't
was
tiger
like,
mom been, like, away for a long time?
So
like,
long.
I also thought that was like, I thought that was like culturally
I know.
inappropriate.
My husband sent it to me, and he's like, what do you think about this? And I was like, I have so many questions. Like, I don't even know what to make of that. Again, it goes back to this labeling where I'm like,
I also think that it was a mistitled. Like, I think that if you read the full piece,
if you actually
read, I think the takeaway from it was we are trying to set aside some crazy expectations on what our homes and families are supposed to look like, and people are getting a little messier. And, like, there's this whole new trend within social media of showing the, like, messiness.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the general point, which I think could have been articulated very differently in the title. But, like, we love creating camps of women. Like, that is what media loves to do.
I know.
We started in the 1980s with the mommy wars, which, as you know, is a complete fiction. Like, but
okay, so here's my question.
Yeah.
You and I have created communities, which I feel like are wonderful communities to celebrate women. Do you think we created camps?
I don't believe so, even though it's interesting because, the language, breadwinners, power pause.
Yeah, right.
But
very emotional.
Well, and also speaking power into, the idea of working for pay, and speaking power into the idea of not working for pay. And so, but ironically, I think so much of the work is saying that we're all more alike than we're different. Like, a breadwinner can still say, I want to do this in a way that makes room for things that are more important to me and live a life of meaning. And a power pause is saying that I can be making room for family life and still hold on to room to be doing work of meaning and growing.
That's exactly
and my research that I commissioned in 2023.
Yes.
But, like, one of my favorite pieces from surveying the general population is that 1 in 3 women who are working out of the home currently are going to pause their careers in the next 2 years.
Right.
1 in 2 are planning to downshift their careers, and then 90% of women who are at home aim to return to the workforce.
Right.
And the reality is that we are just all so much more in between. And I think what we, in both our worlds, are trying to do is create spaces where women feel confident in their choices.
That's right.
And then the capacity to make the best next decision.
What I'm finding is there is such an emotional reaction to the word that I didn't realize. I literally named it from a dinner that was just, like, fun and catchy. And I was like, well, this is a cool word. And what I'm finding is, one, people are taking the literal definition of it, which is fine because there are some people who are the breadwinners, bring home all the financial support. But the point of our community is to redefine what the term breadwinner means today, beyond the paycheck. And I'm finding that people have a real emotional reaction to it of, like, I have incredibly successful women sitting across from me in interviews, and they're like, well, I'm not the breadwinner. And I'm like, that's not the point. Like,
I am not surprised by that. I'm
Right?
not surprised. But words have to cut through to resonate,
Yeah.
right? And they have to speak. They have to be something people want to identify with and belong to.
Yeah.
Right? And that means that some people might feel a little bit uncomfortable with it for a little bit,
Yeah.
right? I think the point is that the language is empowering.
Yeah.
And because I'll tell you, like, the reason I took so much issue with stay-at-home mom is that it implied stagnancy.
Totally.
I mean, sociolinguistically, stay at as opposed to working.
Yeah.
Like, one is an active verb and
Yeah.
one is in one place. And so it needed to be dismantled. But it's still, you know, what I want, even though it's called the power pause, I know that the majority of the women in there are actually making real room in their career. They're just trying to find new ways within their career to, like, lend their talent in new ways, right? And so people will still say, well, I'm not on a full pause. And I always say, yeah, but a career pause isn't a life pause.
Right.
Like, it just means that you are taking a moment to shift away from what you've done for a long time in your career. But it spreads. Like, Breadwinners spreads.
Yeah.
Because it is easy language to understand what it's about. It's funny. For a long time, my work was Mother Untitled.
Yeah.
And the reason it was Mother Untitled was Untitled spoke to the antiquated titles of stay-at-home and working. And being in the untitled space, as well as the duality of figuring out my life without a pithy title to explain who I was.
Yep.
And I thought it was so brilliant.
It was super powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't understand it.
Really?
A lot of people. And it was hard to, like, a lot of people said Mothers United, motherhood untitled. There was a lot of confusion.
Interesting.
And so when the book came out, The Power Pause, it spread so quickly. It was something people started using on their LinkedIn profiles to say, like, I'm stepping into, and so you have to
awesome, Neha.
end up choosing the language people want to see themselves in.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Even if it makes other people feel uncomfortable.
I think that's the important part is I realized that early into building this, it's like I can't be all things to all people.
I think it's incredibly important in this moment in time where there is so much, suddenly people think motherhood is like,
yeah, it's like you're offended. It's like, well, that doesn't talk to me. I have friends who aren't moms yet, and they're like, well, this doesn't. I'm like, you can be a breadwinner. Like, it doesn't mean that you're a mom or a not mom. It's like you can define what that means. That's the whole point of this community. But don't take offense because someone else has a different definition of it, or because I'm having a conversation that you don't relate to.
I also think it's okay to have a space where women talk about enjoying making money.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, like, even if they're not in that season, they might be reconciling what that means right now. But I can tell you that this year will be the first. Last year, even if we made money, we put so much in.
Right.
This is the first year I will have out-earned what I made before. I left.
10 years in.
10 years in.
Like, that's the story that's important. It goes back to money not defining your success. I feel so fulfilled in what I'm doing, and I am in the red. Like, I am investing in this company out of our savings account, bootstrapping this thing, and I wake up every day incredibly fulfilled in what I'm doing. Like, you could consider this a power pause because from the definition of finances, if you go look at our financial spreadsheet, probably on a power pause.
Yeah.
But this is the most fulfilling work I've ever done.
Right. Because you finally give yourself permission to build something that didn't come with a corporate seal on value, and that can feel like a blessing and a burden.
Yeah,
it
does.
I think, and by the way, I think that the privilege to get to choose often comes with the burden of, like, you wake up every morning choosing, like, do I go to drop off or do I not go to drop off?
Right.
Do I, like, should I stop working at 3 to be with my kids, or should I, like, keep going?
Yeah.
And so, but I do think that fine tunes your gut instincts in a big way.
And hindsight's 20/20. Like, they always say, like, you become the truest sense of yourself in your 40s and 50s because you just don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
And like you get to a moment. It's why I left my corporate job. I was like, I don't give a fuck anymore.
Or you earned, and maybe this is when I said early on, I would not have done anything differently in my 20s.
Yeah.
You earned it.
Yeah.
You built a set of experiences that made you feel really confident to take this step.
Yeah.
And then you had a set of other priorities that compelled you to want to take this step.
That's right. Yeah.
But the intersection of those two things is really important.
We have this section of the podcast called Breadwinner Artifacts, which are the physical manifestations of Neha.
Yeah.
What'd you bring in?
Yeah. So I brought my passport because, the first power pause I took, I was 18. I had a really rough senior year of high school, really just trying to pretend I was white and dismantle every trope about being the studious Indian. And so I'd really, drank myself into a hole. And I came down one morning after a particularly bad day and said, I need to take a year off before I go to college. I'd already gotten into college, and I said, like, I need to go back to India. And my parents were like, what? Where did this come from? She's been pretending she's not Indian for like the last couple of years. What is she doing now? And I wanted to go, and I don't know how I had this, but I was like, I want to go back and spend a year. I'm not ready to go to college. If I go to college, this pattern's going to continue. And now, you can tell a story looking back. But what I wanted to go back to a place where I didn't have to try so hard.
Yeah.
I just fit. And so when you fit, you can figure out what really matters, right? Like who you really are when you're not trying to be someone you're not. And I found that again in motherhood.
Wow.
A career pause is not a life pause. Obviously the work of the book is so important, and sometimes it feels like the culmination of everything I did. But I have a million of these that I workbook, and I do that exercise of what is my ideal day every year in this notebook, because I do think goals dignify time.
Yeah.
And I think that it reminds me, like looking back at all the versions, that you're allowed to iterate over and over again.
Yeah.
And this,
I know that card.
I was at Gloria Steinem's living room recently.
Yeah. With Eve?
With Eve and Danielle Robay, who are both colleagues and friends in this work. And we were handed cards, and I got hosting. And Gloria, that's the card she loves too.
Oh.
And we talked about like legacy of making room for women.
Yeah.
And I thought, like, how beautiful that after years of building work that like not everyone understood, like served women.
Yeah.
That this woman who's like the poster child of feminism.
Yep.
And I could share this thread that in the end, that's like what we want to be known for.
Yep.
And so I thought those were special.
So I always ask each guest, what legacy do you want to leave?
Wow.
But it sounds like it's that. Talk to me about, and it, by the way, the legacy can be for your kids too. So it's not just the legacy with the world writ large. It's like, maybe what legacy do you want to leave for your kids?
I want to have been a rock for my family and helped rewrite old ideas for women. That's it.
So one of the old ideas you and I talk about, we actually are like drafting like a co-authored piece about this. It's like we're actually coming at the same problem from two different angles, which is redefining ambition. Because you said this earlier, is like you get to define what ambition looks like as an individual, but you need the space to think about that. And to me, people talk about ambitious moms. Like that's actually, there's so many wonderful communities out there for ambitious moms. And I just spend a lot of time, our community included, but I want to create a space where we're redefining what that term means.
Yeah.
What does ambition mean for you and your community?
Intentional. I think, there was a day I had that 3 and 1-year-old. That year was like really pivotal for me because it really brought me to my knees, and I like collapsed on the couch. And all I wanted to do was watch Law and Order SVU. And I was like, why can't I do more? And then I thought, but I'm so ambitious. Like, I should be doing more. And then I thought, like, but I feel like I just did a lot. And so I Googled. I actually remember exactly where I was sitting. And I Googled ambition, and the Merriam-Webster definition is the determination to do. But it doesn't clarify, like, what actually you're doing.
Right.
And so I remember going, and I actually ended up turning on my computer because I wanted to write it down. I thought, well, if it's just the determination to do, well, I'm going to do a great many things over the long game of my life. And right now I'm very determined to get my house settled after having these 2 children and figure out how to be mentally healthy again and get my son adjusted to school and like hold this little project alongside and be a like generally calm human.
That's ambition.
That's ambition. And
be a
I
generally
thought, like,
calm human.
maybe it's really about taking the time to align your time with what you really value.
Yeah.
And coming and having the self-trust to come back to it often.
That's exactly
and
it.
realign over and over again. So I would say intention. And when we started the membership for the Power Pause, I see that thread. I see so many of the women there just actively shaping their next chapter and thinking about how it can bridge fulfillment with their family life.
Yeah. Which is, again, I believe that your community is like maybe the top 5% of the population. It's like there's a very small subset of people. Let's go back to the term luxury. Like I would consider that like a luxury of emotion to be able to sit in that space. So like maybe luxury isn't a bad thing.
Wow, that's a big deal. I feel like we could have a follow-up because I think when we deem something a luxury, we deem it less value.
Yeah.
Like
and you're lucky to have it.
Yeah, we punish people for it. And I think, and we punish people for privilege too, right? And I think because we've done that, we've scared women from leaning into it. Yeah. Because we are so wary of being judged or being considered frivolous. And so you see women, I always think about that moment where I jumped up from the couch because I didn't want anyone to see me on the couch. Yeah.
I know that feeling.
Literally on the day, some days, and I jump up from the couch.
Yep.
Doesn't
Nothing
matter.
to see here.
Start scrubbing. Like zero luxury happening here. And I think about it a lot because I wonder how many women would do different work or spend their time differently or how much healthier women would be.
Yeah. If
we stopped punishing them for luxury.
This is a luxury. Yeah. And I feel so grateful every day. It's like, this is truly what fills my cup, and I consider that a luxury. But it takes a certain headspace to embrace it versus feeling guilty about it.
It does. And I would say that's still a work in progress. I think I've made a lot of headway in rewriting many things. I think the relationship to privilege is one I've had to walk so carefully in the context of the work that I do. Yeah. And I think it's you're always making sense of it, especially by the way in business.
Yeah, for sure. But it is, you feel like you're constantly towing a line of like, well, am I going to say the wrong thing, or am I not recognizing where someone else has come from because I came from someplace different or I came from a place of privilege. And I think there's mental checks and balances on that
are healthy. And I think allowing women with whatever capacity they have to be intentional
Yeah.
should not be not available.
Right. That's right.
Like how sad that we have created a culture where women don't want to slow down to think about how they're spending their time.
Yeah. The last section is our breadwinner bites, which are our rapid fire questions.
Oh boy.
Career pause or career pivot? What's the difference?
A career pause is when you are actively making room for yourself to grow and explore without paid work for a chapter. You're making room for other priorities, whether it's mental health, elder care, child care. And in making room, you discover more about yourself and your interests and your strengths. A career pivot is often a second step for many of the women in a pause, but it may be more about, I want to take my energy for work and put it toward different work that will fill that area for me, and I feel clear on where I want that energy to go already.
Yeah. What's the advice that you would go back and give your 28-year-old self at Hill Holiday in Boston?
Have a life outside. Because it is very easy to allow it to be your love life, your home life, your financial life, and then when something goes wrong, it can feel like it's all falling apart.
That's right. Yeah.
And life is like a stock portfolio, and you got to have other buckets to invest in.
Yeah.
So that if one thing dips, it doesn't feel like it's all falling apart.
That's so great. Finish this sentence. A woman is ambitious when she
aligns her time with her values.
Lucky place. If you can actually find the place to be that, like, that's a luxury to be able to find that. What is something the Power Pause audience gets wrong about women who take pauses?
I think that the idea that their career pause is a career ender. I think there's still a lot of fear around that.
I felt that.
And I want women, with the book or without, to know that this can be a time that they don't have to do everything in the book to like make them a ideal stay-at-home mom. They can like forego the 5-course meal and use that time to like network or ideate on their next thing or volunteer or just explore a little bit, because this time is actually ripe for self-discovery. I say it all the time. My favorite exercise is serious self-study. You just have an iPhone note and you like start writing down bullets around like anytime you feel lit up by a conversation or a podcast, or you're lingering a little extra on content. This time can actually be about discovering more about yourself.
That's awesome. This last question I asked to every guest. What was the last text you sent to your husband?
He is doing a deal where he is where he was negotiating terms, and I wrote "wow" with a clap sign.
Oh,
I know.
That's awesome.
It's fun to have a cheerleader in him, and to have also ebbed and flowed.
Yeah.
Right? Like during I should say, he was building a company in the time I was fully at home, and then he sold that company and I don't think it was any coincidence that I dialed up the next year. And now, not that I'm slowing down, but I'm definitely more in the in-between than the sprint.
Yeah.
He's dialing up again.
I say this often because I believe that this conversation is really important. A rising tide lifts all boats. It's like, we've got to go it together. Like, this isn't a zero-sum game in parenthood and motherhood and fatherhood. It's like, let's just all try and do it together.
It's so much more fun.
Yeah, truly. Where can everyone find you and the Power Pause?
You can find me on Neha_Ruch, NEHA_RUCH on Instagram. Or you can go to thepowerpause.com for lots of free resources. You can buy the book there or any bookshop you love. And you can consider joining the membership if you're in that in between and you just want to surround yourself with interesting women walking this shift together.
Cool. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. What a joy.
What a joy. 20 years later. We're going to do it again in another 20 years.
Can you
when
imagine?
Our kids have left the house.
We'll be rebranding retirement.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's our next chapter, you guys. Rebranding retirement.